wheat flour, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of baking powder. It's all in the recipe packet. Mix that with your hands, and then I put a little active dry yeast with warm water. And the recipe says you can put all the sugar in the dry ingredient. If you want to let it bloom a little quicker, a little better, then you can put it with a little bit of sugar in the dry yeast with warm water. Yeast activates at best around 100 degrees. How do you know without a thermometer? Our body temperature is about 98 degrees. So you put your finger in it. If it's warm, that it's about 100 degrees. And you have to keep your hands clean anyway, because you really need to work the dough with your hands. So you mix it in. Again, make it more of a clay dough consistency. I gave you the recipe, but use it as a guide. It changes slightly depending on the season, depending on the weather, depending on the flour. Even if it's the same all-purpose flour, it changes a little bit. So use that as a guide, and a little bit of add whatever is necessary, a little bit of flour or a little bit of water. But once you have like once you form a dough, then don't like pour in the water, don't pour in the flour. You'll go forever that way. So if you need a little bit of water, just put water on your hands and then get back to it, instead of putting like a whole amount of water to the dough. Make sure the water is not boiling or it's too hot, then it'll just cook the dough instead of keeping it warm, right? And I've also seen people just keep the light in the oven and keep it there for a couple of hours. That works too, because it'll the light in the oven is enough to get it warm. But whatever works for you at home, if you find a warm place. In the recipe, once you form a dough with water, at the end, I mix in a spoonful of oil, just neutral tasting oil, and then mix that in until you don't see there is much oil in it. So it's just nice, smooth dough. It makes the skin of the dough, so it gets it really nice and fluffy. Then now I'm gonna put my fingers in it so that it doesn't stick to the dough. And I'm gonna push it down to remove gas. And this is a half of the recipe. And when I make this, I have a separate steamed buns class. So I've done this often, and there's always someone who asks the same question: is that enough for 8 buns? And because it rises, you'll be surprised to see the size of it when you actually make the buns with the recipe. So I cut it in half, and then I cut it into another half. And that's how I make 4 out of the half recipe. So with the full recipe, you should be able to make 8. Right? And then when you have 8, keep this covered, because it dries out pretty quickly. Then when you make it, so you want to, of course, form around, and you're stretching it out a little bit, but try to keep the middle part pretty thick, and then the edges, you want the edges thinner, because what happens is you're gonna put the filling inside, whatever filling you put in, right? It could be savory or sweet. And again, the first time, don't put too much filling in it. Here I have sweet red bean I made. The recipe I gave you, it's pretty loose. That's for the shaved ice for the summer. And you just keep cooking it down until it's pretty thick. And then as it cools down, it thickens more. So I'm gonna put red bean filling. And then now you're just gonna pull it together to the middle, right? So what happens is as you pull it together, all these edges are coming to the middle and you have thick bottom. And this is why when you stretch the dough out, you want the thinner edges than the middle. This way, at the end of the day, it'll all balance out and you'll have a nice steamed buns. Then for the bottom, you definitely need something on the bottom so that it doesn't stick to the steamed buns. I cut out parchment paper, but you can use cupcake liner too. And once you get comfortable with this dough, I mean, you can try different things. So we pulled it together. And then the Chinese version would be just keep it all together and then keep the seal side up, right? So that would be just regular, what they call their own, another kind of dumpling. Although now we know why we call it steamed bread, right? So seal it tight and then put it on the parchment paper. And you definitely need a bamboo steamer for this. There are two different ways of steaming at home. You can put like a tripod, steamer tripod in the pot and get the water right below the tripod and steam it that way. It's a little too dangerous to cook it that way, so you definitely need a steamer like that. It always comes with 2 levels of the steamer, and put it there and make sure they're not touching each other. They have a little bit of room because as they cook, they get bigger again. So they're gonna touch each other and they get a little stuck. And it's not a big deal. It's just you don't have like a perfectly round steamed buns. And by the time you put the buns in the steamer and put it to the stovetop, the water should be already at full boil. So you put it on the stovetop in a steamer for 15 minutes. Take it out. Well, before you take it out, check. It's always ready at 15 minutes, but make sure that your stovetop is working as well as mine does. And you can definitely tell when it's ready. It's the steamed buns that you've seen in Chinatown or in other places, or even in the commercials you saw, right? That's the shape that you're looking for. When it comes out, again, don't eat it right away. It's very hot. Give like 5 minutes so that the buns are settling down and it's not too hot, like enough to burn your tongue. So that was my little demo, and I think the steamed buns are getting ready. And you're gonna taste like a mini-size steamed buns